Hey guys, Pete here. This will be my Mr. Robot Season 4, Episode 11 recap and review. It was titled 411 Exit, exit with all lowercase letters except the capital X, and was written and directed by series creator Sam Esmail. This video will contain spoilers for everything that's happened in the Mr. Robot series up to Episode 11 of Season 4, so if you haven't watched it, this video is not for you. Just please come back after you watch the episode and watch my recap. It's an exciting time in the world. This is my favorite moment in this episode, and it answers the age-old question: what would you say if you found yourself trapped in a room in a nuclear power plant with an alternate personality you created to protect yourself as the world is coming to an end? It's an exciting time in the world, and it is an exciting time to be a Mr. Robot fan. We are at the end of the road. Next week there's a 2-hour series finale, and we're going to find out how the whole thing ends. Personally, I think it's a lot of fun that I don't know what's going to happen in those 2 hours. I know what I just saw. I've watched episode 11 twice now, paying close attention to everything that went down. I'm a huge fan. I've been immersed in the Mr. Robot world for over 4 years at this point, and I really have no idea how it's all going to end. I'll talk more about that after I go through the recap. Let's talk about everything that happened in the episode, and then we'll talk some more about the ending. The episode opens directly from the previously on, and we catch up with Whiterose where we last saw her getting ready in that apartment in New York. This wasn't a big surprise if you watched the trailers closely, but we see the scene where she comes down the stairs and all of the FBI agents or the SWAT team that went to her place are slaughtered, dead bodies all over the place. She stops at one who's still alive and says, "You were looking for Minister Zhang. He's not here. There's only Whiterose." And from that moment, we realize we are officially in the endgame. From there, we rewind the clock a little bit to visit Darlene and Elliot saying goodbye at the motel parking lot. We saw this in episode 10. This time we see the whole conversation, and we see Elliot say to Darlene, "Thank you for never giving up on him." There's a really strange bit here when Darlene's leaving because she speaks directly to Mr. Robot, but we don't have time to dwell on that because Mr. Robot and Elliot start to get into an argument. Mr. Robot believes it's a mistake to go after Whiterose's machine. He tells Elliot that they completed their goal. If he wants to do this, he'll essentially be fighting an endless war. There'll always be something else that's going to come up if he doesn't stop now. Elliot isn't deterred. As far as he's concerned, everything started there, and Whiterose isn't dead until her machine is dead. So he heads off on his own to where it all began. That would be Washington Township, New Jersey. He takes a bus and then a long walk through the town, and things are bizarre as soon as he shows up. Nobody seems to be manning the gate. There's a couple cars and trucks racing away from the scene. Later we learn that Whiterose and her minions have showed up and killed everybody. But before we learn that, we watch as Elliot installs his malware. That goes off without a problem. He has a moment of satisfaction and relief, and then things change considerably. And we get the first of many fan surprises as we get to the end of the story. Hamburger Man, which is a recurring character we've seen several times throughout the series, shows up and he actually speaks. So that was fun. He's with a group of foot soldiers who are all wearing Dark Army masks, and they take Elliot on a tour through the building to meet with Whiterose, where we see that there are dead bodies everywhere. On the way, we see portraits of physicists on the walls. Their faces have been painted over. White, red, and black seems to be the colors that were used. And Elliot ends up in a room that is reminiscent of where we saw Angela meet with Whiterose in the past. This room is set up and decorated to cater to Elliot rather than Angela. And this is where Elliot and Whiterose finally have their conversation about her plans. Things start off with Elliot saying that he won't be brainwashed, that this will not work on him like it worked on Angela. B.D. Wong does a fantastic job here. This is a great bit of acting. Whiterose challenges Elliot's worldview, essentially saying that they have the same goals. Elliot rejects this, and most importantly, I think Elliot says that he hates society. That's true, but he still believes in people. Some of them continue to love him even when he tries to get rid of them, and all of that helps him heal. Then things go off the rails. It's presented as a choice. Whiterose says that Elliot gets to decide right before she shoots herself in the head. It was pretty shocking. In the lead up to the suicide, the alarms had started to sound. The tension was coming from the fact that Whiterose had turned the machine on. The mysterious machine, the one that's been in the background of this entire series. She's turned it on and it's draining power from the cooling system of the reactor, so the whole thing is going to melt down. She is unaffected by this. This does not matter as far as she's concerned. And of course, she takes her own life to put an exclamation point at the end of that sentence. This leaves Elliot in the room to try to figure out what to do. Mr. Robot shows up, gets him to check the phone. They find out the code to the door is 590509, like the 59 hack. Before they can leave, though, Elliot finds a disc labeled eXit, which was the title of the episode. It's in the copy of Resurrection, which was left next to the Apple IIe on the desk. He loads the game up, and the first time he plays it, he does it wrong. He leaves his friend behind. The alarms don't stop, and he decides to try it again. This time he stays, but by now it's too late. He settles down in the chair, says I love you to Mr. Robot, with Whiterose's dead body on the floor, and as far as we can tell, that's that. The destruction is complete. The screen fades to red, and then we wake up in a brand new place. It is Elliot's apartment in New York, but it's completely different, and the person that looks like Elliot that lives inside of it is different as well. He wakes up and puts on records, he gets ready, he uses products, and he talks to Angela, his fiance, on the computer. So we're not in the same New York that we've spent time in for the last 4 seasons. And we're not with the same Elliot that we've come to know. This Elliot is a CEO. He's confident. He wears white shoes and sweaters. He's getting ready to get married. He's an only child, and his father is still in his life. He's not dead. And he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would sexually abuse his son. In this world, E Corp is actually named F Corp, and that's where we see our first glitch. We also see that there is a earthquake, which is centered at Washington Township. We see that Whiterose exists in this world, but she is a rich philanthropist who's out there doing good in the world. And when Elliot goes to work, we see he's pitching Allsafe for the F Corp account. His meetings with Tyrell, and this Tyrell is much different as well. He's essentially the opposite of the Tyrell from our story, and we really don't know what's going on. We got a different world where all the people who are dead are alive. All the bad things that happened to Elliot probably didn't happen. Darlene doesn't exist, or at least not as his sister. And you could say that this is an improvement over the life that Elliot had in our world. All of this is thrown in question, though, in the closing scene of the episode where he comes home, and I mean he, as in White Shoes Sweater Elliot, CEO Elliot, comes home to find himself, black hoodie wearing normal Elliot, in his room. So the first time I watched this, I thought that this was literally Elliot in a different life. Like whatever happened, he was zapped into a life. On the second watch, it seemed a lot more likely to me that Elliot was zapped into this world and he's the one that shows up at the end to meet an alternate version of himself. What's happening, I can't say for sure, but what I can say, and what I feel pretty strongly about, is that the series will not end with Elliot becoming the guy with the white shoes and the sweater. Will he have a choice to make? Will he have a choice to choose to be in that world or be in the other world? I don't know. Is this world real? Is it really happening? I mean, everything that happened after he goes to Washington Township was suspect. It doesn't mean it didn't happen, but there's definitely a chance that it didn't. How that might play out is anyone's guess, and there are tons of guesses about it. What seems certain to me is that the last 2 hours are going to be about him trying to figure out what's going on. There are so many directions this could go. There are so many different things that could be happening here. I find it awesome. I find it fantastic. Depending on which theories you like, you may feel like that they have been confirmed, that you're seeing it play out just like you thought you would. But for me, I'm just enjoying the turn that it took. I mean, it's just not what I expected to happen, but I'm right here for it. I cannot wait to see what happens, and I have full faith that it's going to be an awesome 2-hour ride. This is a show that has been built on the unreliable narrator, Elliot, who hasn't talked to us this entire season. Mr. Robot has stepped up to do that a little, but I feel like we need to be able to question everything. In season 2, Elliot was in jail, and he kept that from us. It's well established that we can't trust everything that we see. Elliot's relationship with reality is not the same as ours. So is it really happening? I'm torn. I mean, could Whiterose have been pushed to activate this plan because of the hack, the destruction of the Deus group, basically, the doxing? Possibly. If that's the case, though, like, why was the Congo so important? Why do we have that whole storyline if she just needed something to push her over the edge to do it right there in New Jersey? Do I like the alternatives, like Elliot being asleep or being in a coma or this all being a dream of some sort? Not particularly. But it's also very possible that it all could be inside Elliot's head. We've seen evidence of this in the past, and we've seen the boardroom. We know that some of the things that we've seen have not existed in reality. My least favorite theories are the simulation theories. I know there's evidence out there like the 11/16 time that we keep seeing over and over again. And I get the idea behind the Alderson loop theory. I mean, these are popular theories, so no offense if you like those. It's just that I think we had a fantastic 4 seasons of TV where we learned about Elliot's mental state and the trauma and his isolation and loneliness. In my mind, I don't connect the dots that, oh, it's all going to end in a simulation. Doesn't mean it couldn't work. I wasn't a big fan of the prison theory. I remember seeing it the day it came out. Right after season 2, episode 1 aired, someone guessed it right off the bat. I read it, I liked it, then I didn't like it because I didn't want the show to be filled with twists and turns all the time. That turned out fine. Whenever it was revealed, I liked it and I was all for it. So I don't like the alternatives, but I don't necessarily want to see alternate realities be true either. Alternate universes. How would this have worked when she showed her presentation to Angela? I mean, she shoots herself in the head here. If this is real, if this is happening, Whiterose, as we know her, is dead. That didn't happen whenever this presentation happened with Angela. We see Angela in Elliot's visions here, but how is any of that connected? Did I like to see the old characters brought back? Ollie, Lloyd, Tyrell? Of course I did. I really did. And I think what stands out to me the most about those sequences is not, I know a lot of people are thinking that Tyrell's in on it and there's this thing going on there. That didn't jump out at me at all. What did jump out at me was Edward's phone and Angela's mom answering the phone but not speaking on the other line. There's also the blood in the garbage can and Elliot didn't have his wallet. That all hints to me that our Elliot, the one we've been following all this time, is probably involved with some of those things that we see happening. The telephone is the easiest one. He went to the Mr. Robot shop. Edward left his phone out on the display case or whatever. Elliot picks it up. He sees the picture of the family without Darlene, freaks out and leaves. I think those are the parts that I found interesting about this. As I said, they really set up this idea of the third, and they really laid it out there that Darlene might be the key to that. Her seeing Mr. Robot in this episode was definitely bizarre. And I don't really know what to make of that. Magda and young Elliot showed up just after that. In one way or another, we're all going back into that boardroom. Like, that has to happen before the series ends. Wherever we're at now, however we're at now, there has to be a bridge to that part of the story. So I am going to leave the video there. I'm super excited for this finale. I'm super excited that I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm really interested to hear what you guys think in the comments.